what makes a good argument? Well, clearly it's important who's making the argument, to whom they are making it, and how the argument is being made. But what is also important is where the argument comes from and in what company it appears. This company used to be described as context at some point, and nowadays it's more usual to refer to it as a frame or framing. The frame into which you're putting the pieces of your argumentation in order to make your cause as plausible as it can get. And in order to fill in the frame, you have like toolboxes in front of you. You have these toolboxes with bits and pieces coming from different places. Think about human rights now, and think about the arguments coming from the toolbox labeled human rights. Well, they seem to come semantically connected by their meaning. They seem to come in stable, fixed clusters, like you have right to life, and then you will also get religion there somewhere. You have freedom of conscience, and you will also get religion somewhere there. The same goes for family. You have socioeconomic rights, there will be equality somewhere there behind them, etc. So you are thinking, well, we are able to see the connections between the arguments. But can we? If you take freedom of conscience again, freedom of conscience has been used extensively as an argument in abortion debates all over the world. But surprisingly enough, these are very different freedoms of very different consciences that we are speaking about. One recent example comes from the Colombian debate on the liberalization of abortion law in the years 2020, 2022, and this year it is the anniversary of the decision that liberalized abortion in Colombia until 24th week of pregnancy. It was a very interesting debate, and one of the most interesting things in this debate was the heavy use of freedom of conscience argument that referred both to the freedom of conscience of a pregnant person wishing to terminate the abortion and freedom of conscience of a pregnant person not wishing to terminate abortion. There was also an argument of the freedom of conscience of a medical practitioner wishing to be given the right to refuse to perform an abortion, and freedom of conscience of a medical practitioner wishing to be granted the right to perform an abortion according to their conscience. Not a very stable cluster there, is it? But go further, like move beyond the box labeled human rights. Look at other boxes. Look at the box named biology. If you think about right to life, you have this bit with right to life on it, and then from the biological toolbox, you can get arguments to support the thesis that the fetus, whose right to life is so important in arguing about abortion, is in fact a human being, because it shares some of the characteristics of the human being. But from the same biological box, you can also get the arguments to argue the opposite. It is not a human being because it does not share some human characteristics. Not a very stable cluster there either. And the same could be repeated over and over again for most of the typical modes of argumentation in abortion debates, for most of the typical ways to fill in the frame. And this is why we need the concept of an argumentative architecture. The architecture of filling in the frame, of building up the cause of various bits and pieces coming from various toolboxes. This is necessary in order to get rid of the idea that you can understand the meaning of a human right as an argument separately and without accounting for the frame in which it comes.